Peter, obviously, if you read from Scripture, had a place of eminence among all those apostles. He had a preeminent position among them. This is why, right from the beginning, Jesus already reflected this position of his by giving him a new name. When Christ first met Peter, he gave Peter a new name, and this name is translated into English as rock. We get this from the Gospel of John, chapter 1, verse 42. The name that means rock. You know, the word rock is never used for anyone else in Scripture except for God himself. He is the rock of my salvation. The only other person who shares this title now is Peter. Of course, the other apostles also had nicknames of their own, but that was not a change of name. It was just a nickname. Like, for example, James and John, they were very hot-tempered, so they were called sons of thunder. But nobody went to see them and called them, hey, thunder, thunder. Nobody called them that. The only one that really had a change of name among the first generation of the apostles was Peter. From now, you are Peter, and on this rock, I will build my church. You know, when Jesus gave him this name, there was a significance to it. Those of you who might have made a pilgrimage to the Holy Land, if you have gone to this place called Caesarea Philippi, at that point of time when Jesus gave Peter this name, they were in Caesarea Philippi. And you know where they were? They were standing just beside this wall of rock, a big wall of rock. Underneath this wall of rock, okay, there was a spring. And this spring was a source of life for the Jordan River nearby. And when Jesus spoke to Peter and called him Peter, he was pointing at this rock. He says, from now on, you are Peter. And on this rock, I will build my church. Why? Because beneath this rock is the water of life. Is the significance clear? You are rock. Now, I have to explain some more things, because you know what? When Jesus called Simon Peter, he did not address him as rock. He addressed him as little pebble. Why? Because Peter was called Petros by Christ, not Petra. Petra means rock. Petros means small pebble. Jesus actually called Peter small pebble. This is going to be very difficult to answer. But actually, if you understand the culture of that time and linguistic laws of those days, it was not very difficult. There are two explanations for it. First of all, when Jesus spoke to Peter, he was not speaking Greek. He was actually speaking Aramaic. And the exact word that Jesus actually used was kephar. You are kephar, rock. And on this rock I will build my church. But when his words had to be translated to write out the gospel accounts, because the gospel accounts were all written in Greek. So by the time you translate it from Aramaic into Greek, it has to be called Petra. But there is a problem here. Petra is a feminine name. It's like Jesus calling Peter Petrina instead of Peter. So to make it sound right, it had to be changed into Petros to make it a masculine name. But the problem is Petros means little pebble. So you have to go back into the Aramaic that Jesus spoke And the word that Jesus used was Kepha. Follow? This is the first explanation. The second explanation is this. By the time of Jesus, the Greek that they use was a particular kind of Greek that we call Koine Greek. Koine Greek, okay? In Koine Greek, there is actually no distinction between Petros and Petra. Only in classical Greek is there this distinction. You follow? So people who are asking you this question about why Petros and Petra are asking it from the perspective of classical Greek. But in Koine Greek, Petros, Petra, no difference. After Jesus gave Peter his new name, Jesus also made two promises to him that are related to the founding of the church. Jesus also gave two promises to Peter that are related to the founding of the church. But first of all, what are those passages in Scripture where Jesus gives this new name to Peter? The Gospel of John chapter 1 verse 42. Jesus looked at him and said, "So you are Simon the son of John? You shall be called Cephas." You shall be called Kepha, or in Greek, Petros. So the word Kepha, Kephas, is merely a transliteration of Aramaic Kepha. Then, in the Gospel of Matthew chapter 16 verse 16, after Peter has said, "You are the Christ, the Son of the living God," in Matthew 16 verse 18, Peter said that this truth was revealed to Peter by God himself. "And I tell you," he says, "you are Peter. You are Kepha." He's affirming him again. To this statement, Jesus added a promise that the church would be founded on the office of Peter. So what are these two promises that Christ gave? First of all, Jesus told Peter that he would be given the authority to forgive sins and to make disciplinary rules. Matthew chapter 16 verse 19, "Whatever you bind on earth shall be bound in heaven, and whatever you loose on earth shall be loosed in heaven." Subsequently, in the Gospel according to Matthew chapter 18 verse 18, Jesus also gave this same authority to the other apostles. But first of all, he gave it to Peter. The second promise was this. Jesus told Peter that he would give him the keys to the kingdom of heaven. The keys to the kingdom of heaven. Matthew chapter 16 verse 19. You know what a great significance this is? In those days, all towns and cities were guarded by high walls to prevent enemies from intruding into the city. Even the city gate was high. It was like a fortress. The only person who had power over the city was the mayor, and he was the only one, the mayor in the city was the only one who had the key to the gate of the city. Without him opening that gate, no one could go out and no one could come in. Imagine the power he had. That's why keys are always symbolic of power. And now Jesus is telling Peter, "I give you the keys to the kingdom of heaven. Without you, no one can enter." I'm making this very clear statement now, in case you did not hear me clearly. Without your union with the office of the Pope, there is no way into the kingdom of heaven. So, listen to the words of Christ. I will give you the keys of the kingdom of heaven. Authority over the salvation of the household of God. Jesus required that Peter take on this responsibility of providing pastoral care and oversight to all the other apostles as well. You will notice this. After Jesus asked him, do you love me? 3 times, right? Do you love me? Yes, I do, Lord. Feed my sheep. Do you love me? Yes, I do, Lord. Feed my lamb. And Jesus goes on after that to say, Simon, Simon, behold, Satan demanded to have you, that he might sift you like wheat. But I've prayed for you, that your faith may not fail. Wow, can you imagine Jesus saying these words to you? I thank God I'm not Peter. And Jesus tells him this. When you have turned again, he means after your denial, after denying me, when you have repented, strengthen your brethren, strengthen your brothers. Jesus was giving Peter a very grave responsibility. It is your job to take care of all these other apostles. You understand the responsibility of the Pope? All the bishops in the world who are successors of the apostles are his responsibility to take care of. They are his brothers. This is the reason that the Catholic Church calls the Pope the Vicar of Christ, Vicarius Christi, the Vicar of Christ. Because the office of the Pope is so bound to Christ that the Pope actually represents Christ on earth. Because it is to him that Christ has given the keys to the kingdom of heaven. Thank you for watching this video. If you found it beneficial, remember to like the video, subscribe to our channel, and also to hit the bell button in order to receive notification whenever a new video is uploaded onto this channel. Do also check out our online catalog by clicking on the link in the description below.